Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the finest urban conservative talk show in the world. It is, without a doubt, the Exceptional Conservative Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republicans and then the Democrats. We can't start this show right until we start it with Senor Cabrera.
Buenas tardes, niños. This is Spanish with Senora Cabrera. Today we will learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish. In English, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, in Spanish we say, juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa, una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Muy bien.
Muy bien.
Practice your Pledge of Allegiance, and the more you practice, the faster you will memorize. I'll see you later.
And I will see you now. Ladies and gentlemen, we certainly are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republicans and then the Socialists. In the chat room this evening, Dave Milner. Mary Brockman, my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, and you will be dismissed. Certainly the most beautiful and lovable woman in all the world. Mrs. Biggs is watching via live stream and Ustream this evening. And I want to thank all the others who have tuned in from around the world to listen to our particular program. Let me get that link for you. I started a little late this evening. I know what some of you are thinking. Well, that's par for the course for all this conservatism. Socialist. There we go. Nothing like a black conservative being a little late. Yeah, that's what we're talking about there. Nothing seemed to change. But I assure you, I apologize to all of you for my tardiness this particular evening. I was teaching a class on real estate tonight and financing it through government assistance. It's something I do. It's the job I have. By golly. Love you, Mary. And that just drove me, after having a conversation with people, what I had planned on talking about tonight, I just couldn't talk about. You know, this is Tuesday night, and this is one of my favorite nights of the week because Janice Hall, the J. Hall World Report, will be on. And we will be talking about world affairs, bringing those world affairs to the kitchen table. And I love it when she comes on the air with us. I really do. She adds so much to our conversation, and she is becoming more and more conservative every single day. I love talking with the young woman. I really do. But her insights have been spot on a number of world events, if not 95%, certainly well beyond that. And the things that we talk about on this particular show, you know that we were months ahead talking about the China Sea situation. Months ahead talking about all the other world events, Syria, talking about the Iran situation. I know what the rest of the guys are doing on the internet tonight. I really do. And on general terrestrial radio, I know what they're talking. They're talking about how great they are, Carson and Trump, because they forced the hand of the Republican Party regarding the debates. And why don't we go back to the Lincoln-Douglas debate style? Well, that's what I was looking for. Why don't we go back? It's amazing how we wanted to go to the Lincoln-Douglas debate style after 3 successive liberal debates. And please don't tell me Fox News was conservative. Nah, not at all. So, I know what they're saying. I know what they're saying out loud, and I know that that's one of the big issues tonight. I also know that the elections are a big issue tonight, and everybody's jumping up and down regarding the elections. I know that there's one election that I'm excited about. That's the Kentucky election. Mary says, we always forgive your tardiness. Thank you. Black America loves you. Oh, man. I hate that reputation. I really do. Because I want to be the king of 9 o'clock. I don't know about you. I want to be the king of 9. I want it to be at such a point where people feel that they've lost something in life because they didn't tune in at 9 o'clock. I just want to be that way. It's something about my ego and my arrogance, yeah. So there are a multitude of things that people are talking about tonight. Star Parker talking about Thomas Sowell's new book that's on the marketplace, and mind you, Wealth, Poverty, and Politics is his new book. I can't get Thomas Sowell come on my program. I can't get a multitude of great black economists, although I will be remiss in not asking our official economist for blackeconomics.com not to return to our pride. We've been missing each other. He travels a lot now. He's a world traveler, and so want him to come back on. So there are a multitude of things that people are talking about. I wanted to go back real quick to the Matt Bevin election. Okay. Matt Bevin for governor. He has won the Republican race. He has won the governor's race in Kentucky. Matt Bevin has won the race in Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but first and foremost, I've talked with Matt Bevin. I've tried to get him on my program. Timing just never worked out, but he's a great guy. And the Republican Tea Party guy has beat back the Democrat Jack Conway on Tuesday night, tonight, becoming only the second GOP governor in the state in 4 decades. Okay, now, I want you to understand something about this particular election and why every Democrat in Washington or a socialist in Washington is now preparing to pack up and leave. He wasn't supposed to win. Matt Bevin was not supposed to win. You see, he's a conservative. He's a Tea Party guy. He's a conservative. He's a Christian. He's a constitutionalist. And he's a capitalist. He's a capitalist. And tonight, that's really what I want to talk about. You see, it's not just that he wants to scale back Medicaid. It's not just that he wants tax reform. But he sees the world differently than the socialists do. He sees the world in this particular capacity. Let's see. Can I get this done there? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, I'll do it like this. You can see God now. Not me. God. All right. You have to understand, Kim Davis a few months ago spoke out and was willing to sacrifice going to prison against same-sex marriage. You have to understand that they are watching these elections, and little by little, Nothing that people do at CNN. Nothing that people do at MSNBC. Nothing that people do at Fox News. Nothing that people do from Washington or from New York or from LA or Chicago or California, Sacramento. Nothing they do seems to be stopping the fact that the nation is beginning to turn red from inside out. Conrad and can't think of his last name. Oh my goodness, Conrad in West Virginia turned that state red in the last election. You're beginning to see even Illinois tickle the pink ivories towards red. Ladies and gentlemen, the country is turning red, and why? It's a repudiation of socialism. I want either Hillary or Bernie Sanders to run in 2016. Either one of them, it doesn't matter, because what the Democrats have accepted is the antagonism by which free men live. The opportunity to create wealth and lift people out of poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, capitalism is the greater good for urban America. When we come back, I want to talk with you about a conversation I had earlier tonight with a young woman who did not define her value by what was truthfully an adequate measure. She had designed her worth by what the state said. After a conversation with the conservative, capitalist, constitutionalist, Christian Ken McClinton, she now sees the world with new light. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, capitalism, the greater good for urban America.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Woodfield Restaurant, and today I'm walking through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage, and they cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredients. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. Now, we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fishing fish on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burgers. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chicken ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce and let it cook on it until it makes a little bit. We're going to add pepper jack cheese to this burger. Spice it up a bit.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. Ordering it up, Infused Restaurant. I don't know about you, but it's early in the evening. I have not had a meal. Well, actually, I had one meal for lunch, and that was at 12 o'clock. I've been busy all day, running and ripping, handling matters for the events on Friday and on Saturday, sending out a press release earlier today letting people know about the event. I've been running, I've been doing things, trying to coordinate activities in Baltimore and D.C. While preparing for the show, and as well serving my constituency regarding financial matters and teaching a class tonight. So I've really been running all over the place. All I want is a good, juicy burger. I mean, and not your extraordinary burger. I'm not talking about your McDonald's or your Burger King. I'm not trying to degrade them. There are times when they're acceptable. But, by God, I want a real good gourmet burger that you know that a cow died to be here for you. You know what I'm saying? 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Infused.com, infused.com. They should give me a cap to wear. You know what I'm saying? Derek Williams, why don't you give me a cap to wear so that I can wear it during the show? I mean, just good average. For people who want to advertise, I mean, by golly, you go all the way with it. But go to Infused Restaurant, 301-449-9000. If I wish they delivered. I wish they delivered. On a night like this, I wish they delivered. I would love. And I love my wife's cooking. When she does it. I love my wife's cooking. But I also like to take her out to a very nice restaurant where she can enjoy herself and have a very good time. Infused Restaurant is that particular restaurant. I recommend it highly. You can eat there any one of these particular days. I recommend today. Infused Restaurant Lounge in Temple Hills, Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you why we are poor in urban America. I know people always point to problems. And I think last night's show where we showed the out-of-control classroom where the teacher looked like she was near tears as a young man is pelting her with M&Ms, yelling at her, screaming at her, telling her in very curse words that she didn't care. Now, Democrats, there's your war on women right there. I don't see you jumping. I don't see a single socialist jumping up and down about this particular video. I don't hear any socialists jumping up and down about, and it's a Derek Brown video. You can find it on YouTube, or if you go to the Exceptional Conservative Show's Facebook page, you can find it there. But if you scroll down and watch it, a complete out-of-control classroom where the gentleman is tackling a young woman, and putting his legs between. I mean, completely out of control, and the women attempting to denigrate the woman while she's teaching. So, ladies and gentlemen, and even the woman is so emotionally, psychologically beaten that she's allowing them to taunt her to the point. I mean, seriously, allowing her to taunt. She becomes a part of the taunt herself. The boy is because he's not a man. A boy is moving a foul from her hand, playing a little game with her, and she looks like she has been virtually beaten into submission. There's no button for her to push asking for security to come. There's no security nearby, apparently. with all the noise, you would think that someone who was walking through the halls would have heard something. Maybe a neighbor teacher would have heard something, but no one says anything. So you must think that this happens every single day. And legitimately, you have to ask yourself, why do we want to send our teachers into combat zones like that, where students are not going to receive any repercussion for their activities in the classroom? They're not going to be repudiated in the home. They're not going to be spanked at home. No, they're not going to be disciplined or chastised at home. Then you have to send, like in Colombia, now you have to send a teacher there who begs the student to stop, and then they have to send an administrator in to beg the student to stop, and then you send the principal in to beg the student to stop, and then when you send in law enforcement in a situation like that, oh my God, it's racial. And see, that's what's happened in urban America, where we have begun to satisfy ourselves that the state, which has turned the nation upside down, is the greater good. Anything for the greater good. Now, I'm praying for that teacher. I am seriously praying for that. I am praying that that teacher escapes that school. And I know some of you are saying, hey, Kim, maybe that's God's will that she be there to help the least fortunate, the least, the last, the lost. Maybe she's there to be ridiculed like that and to be sacrificed like that. Maybe she is to be a martyr for the rest of the teachers so that they would be inspired to teach kids. When I look back over my life, I did not ever see anyone ever turn back and say, it was that teacher that I mortified with my behavior that got me to turn around and become a greater person, a person of greater character, a person who took on challenges and overcame them. I never heard that from anybody. Listen, my dad challenged me. He challenged me at the table at dinner when we sat to dine together. He challenged me there. He challenged me mentally. He challenged me psychologically to find out if the answer for the situations that I am in is because of something that others have done, or maybe I've done it myself. What part of me did not excel or achieve? My mom challenged me. She challenged me to be a better human being. We would read the Bibles together. We would dance. My mom taught me how to dance. All right, and I'm a very good dancer. Thank you very much. But it wasn't because they threatened me all day long. It's that they disciplined me. They disciplined me and prepared me for the world to come. Now, those kids, when they go home, will go home to households which will probably encourage them to continue in their behavior. You're right, Dave Milner. Dave Milner says, word, Ken, that teacher looked like an abused wife. She did, and she looked worse. She looked like a slave. We don't want to say, okay, wait a minute, we'll put it this way. She's a hard-working teacher. Apparently, you can't say hard-working because that's a fault against slavery or something or whatever. What's her name? Perry from MSNBC with her censorship. But ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying to you is capitalism only operates well when there is a lack of corruption, when there is decency, and when there is order and a respect for the rule of law. And the rule of law has to be respected in and outside of the home. Now, I'm quite certain that young man has been taken. Now, I'm not even saying that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that someone in the community thought that was so misogynistic, that was so abusive, that was so degrading, that was so illegal to serve some time and the kids in there, maybe they get suspended. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that they allow, thank you, Dave, Melissa Harris Perry, that foolishness on slavery. I'm going to say to you, with all of my heart and with all of my soul, that happens in neighborhoods and in communities that allow it to happen. You don't go to school planning to do that unless you know you can get away with it. I'm just saying, you don't do it. I agree with you, Dave, with zero punishment. You don't do, listen, there are things that we do at home. Like when my mom opened up the can of cookies and found four Oreo cookies left, and wondered where the other 60 were. She didn't have to look far. I did it. And I received discipline for that. But I didn't think I would get caught. I didn't think I would have to pay a punishment. I didn't think that I would be spanked, and I didn't think that I would be punished. Sat in time out for a week or so. I didn't think that I would pay a penalty for breaking the rules of the house. And maybe this gentleman who sacked the classroom and was mischievous for the entire 15-minute prologue of watching that thing, apparently he's used to getting away with this. There are classrooms that we grew up in. I know I have to go. I went beyond. I had to go to a break. But when we were growing up, there was always a joke about the basement classrooms. Classrooms in the basement of the school. Okay, nobody wanted to be in the basement of the school for class. Why? Because normally that was the place they put everyone that they did not want to deal with during the course of the day. And just in case the administrators from downtown came by to look in on the classroom, they would not go to the basement. They would stay on the first floor. These are the nice classrooms. These are the great kids. Yeah, 56 cookies, man. I'm telling you. I can handle that. These are the best students. And so it gave our administrators pride in knowing, oh, what great kids we have. But downstairs, where we try to hide the evil, were teachers who would completely, if they stayed more than 2 months, it was an amazing feat. Why? Because they do what they do in destroying systems and structures that are highly conducive to their well-being and their future. I say all that in preparation for capitalism, which we're going to talk about tonight. So some people are wondering, well, why are you talking about this education? Why are you talking about the Derek Brown video, man? It's a Derek Brown award or somebody. Well, why are you talking about the kid who lifts up a desk and tries to throw it at his teacher? Why are you talking about that kid? Why are you talking about a student who manhandles verbally the teacher and throws M&Ms and calls all kinds of... Why are you talking about that? Because it is that system that has been indoctrinated and inserted and installed in the classroom to defy the child's worth, the child's value, and the child's purpose, and the child's understanding of his destiny. In capitalism, you don't do that because you want the best out of the kid. You challenge the kid to be the best. You challenge the kid to be competitive. You get in the child's face sometimes to encourage the child to be the best he can be. And sometimes the child cries, but you know what? It makes them better. And then you ask yourself, when did we get to the point when a teacher who has decided, and of course it's your personal choice. I'm praying that you have good wisdom and understand. I hope you watch tonight and become a capitalist and do something else with your life maybe. I know. I'm going to be criticized by the socialists. But see, that's the problem, kid. You always run away from the problem. You need to face the problem in our classroom. No, we need to face the problem in our neighborhoods, in our families, and in our individuals, and in the systems and constructs that we have accepted that will make us worse off than better off. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not socialism that will save America. It is not socialism that has saved urban America. Look at Detroit. It is capitalism and the understanding of capitalism that will make us a great and wondrous nation again. You don't become a wondrous nation when your teachers are afraid of their students. Nor do you become a wondrous nation when your students are afraid of your teachers. There has to be an acceptance. There has to be a solution. The solution is simple. Restoration in the households that responds or actually installs restoration in the school system. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, you have to pay attention. Because before the Constitution, before conservatism, there were two things that made this nation great. And the socialists have yielded and taken everything that's made this country great. Capitalism and Christianity when we come back.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of our King's Restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage that they cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and green. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fishing grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burgers. When we keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat next to the little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Oh God, I love that picture. Oh, Oh, Infused Restaurant Lounge. Derek Williams is the owner, Chef Arnold there. Oh man, that's a beautiful picture. I know. I know. Some of you all must think I eat a lot. Saturday and Sunday is brunch, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Infused Restaurant, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. The telephone number for those who are following along at home is 301-449-9000. 301-449-9000. I'm going to tell you, brunch, you get the breakfast sandwich, of course. You get burritos, steak and eggs, fish and grits. Oh man, corned beef hash. My wife loves corned beef hash. That woman loves it. French toast. I mean, and not your just ordinary. I'm talking top of the line French toast. Belgian waffles. Blueberry pancakes. Oh man, they even have, ladies and gentlemen, they have blueberry. They have strawberry. But some of you all didn't know that Infused Restaurant has the bacon waffle. What are you waiting for? Infused Restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to play for you a clip. You love fish and corned beef. Mary loves fish and corned beef. See, I want y'all to know something. Mary and my wife hung out a lot in Vegas. They got a lot in common. Alright? Okay? They hung out a lot. They love each other. And you know what they have in common? Disciplining me. Fish and Mary, when you come to Washington, fish and corned beef and hash, we're going to go to Infused Restaurant. We're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to play this clip. I know a lot of people will say, hey, why are you playing this Obama clip now? He's almost through. Well, he was telling you something.
Now, just as there was in Teddy Roosevelt's time, there's a certain crowd in Washington who, for the last few decades, have said, let's respond to this economic challenge with the same old tune. The market will take care of everything, they tell us.
Okay, I want you to understand what he just said to you. In fact, I'm going to play it back for you. At the 15-second mark here. I want to play it back for you.
The market will take care of everything, they tell us.
The market will take care of everything, they tell us. Now, I want you to understand that there are people like Bill Gates, even George Bush, the gentleman who has a sizable investment in Geico, who is one of the richest men in the world, and others, George Soros and others, those who reaped great harvests using the principles and tools of capitalism, have now supported an individual who believes in socialism. And what he's saying to you is that the system of capitalism, both political and economic, and I would go as far as say it's cultural, has failed America. Literally has failed America. And that is not the market. It is not the invisible hand which Adams referred to. Adam Smith. It is the visible hand of government that creates the avenue by which people profit. This is as true as if there is a Santa Claus. Well, in symbolism, yes. In reality, no. That's mom and dad taking care of your gluteus maximus. Obama is telling you that capitalism failed America, and that somehow $20 trillion of debt is restoring America. $20 trillion of debt is creating jobs. $20 trillion of debt is getting people into homes. $20 trillion of debt is getting people into schools. $20 trillion of debt is making it possible for luxury goods to be owned and produced in this country. $20 trillion of debt is happening here to get people off of welfare and disability. $20 trillion of debt is going to heal everybody because it's going to provide universal health care for all. $20 trillion of debt will not put us in a situation where we are subject to the winds of doctrines from people who are overseas. $20 trillion worth of debt virtually will take care of the provision necessary to secure the inheritances of our children and their children. That's what he's saying to you, is that the capitalism that built this nation, that took the risk, the individuals who took the risk of traveling from England to a new world, from Italy to a new world, from Greece to a new world, from Europe to a new world, from Africa to a new world, that the risk they took is not worth the risk taking again. You have to understand what capitalism is and what it ain't. According to Investopedia, capitalism is a system of economics based on the private ownership of capital and production inputs and on the production of goods and services for profit. Private ownership is the key in terms of capitalism. Sure, there were government subsidies for Vasco da Gama and Christopher Columbus to come here. And they were expected to return with gold, although most of that didn't happen. But they return with return on investment. They return on the investment greater goods, greater commodities. A profit was made. And then individuals paid for the opportunity to leave countries like England and settle in places like Massachusetts and Virginia and create their own colonies, their own places where businesses invested with settlers and others to make certain that there was a return on investment and further exploration of a new world. Someone took the risk. But what Obama is saying to you is that type of thinking has failed America. That type of thinking has made urban America poor.
If we just cut more regulations and cut more taxes, especially for the wealthy, our economy will grow stronger. That's a simple theory. And we have to admit, it's one that speaks to our rugged individualism and our healthy skepticism of too much government.
I want you to understand that point, too, for those who are studying along at home. Rugged individualism is a criticism of you taking the risk to make wealth. Rugged individualism is a criticism of you taking the risk to make wealth. Now, Deuteronomy 8:18 says that God has given you the power to create wealth, to make it happen, to build homes, to create jobs. So that the returning citizens, I don't know where you get that idea from prison, but the returning citizens, as if they've been on foreign land. No, they're just citizens who screwed up and they're coming back into the community. Okay? They're citizens. They're not returning citizens. What country did they go to? I mean, what battle did they fight? They haven't been overseas. They robbed grandma, shot and killed somebody, used drugs, and now they're in prison, and now they're coming back, and you call them return. They're not returning. They're citizens who screwed up. Rugged individualism says that I'm willing to put my honor, my wealth, my name on the line. And I'm willing to invest in this hat company. And in this hat company, I'm going to produce the next best thing, an innovation that's not already in the marketplace. I know it's going to take time. I know it's going to take money. That's why I'm going to get my skill sets, develop them over time, and then take what I have learned in the marketplace as an employee and put it to work as an employer. I'm going to take that risk. I might get some loans. I might have family members loan me money or invest with me, but I'm willing to take that risk to put a little store here. And I'm going to sell goods. And those goods will create jobs. So at least a profit from those goods will create jobs. And the tax dollar that's received will create better economies and better communities, at least. Because I'll be able to help as a citizen get police and fire and hospitals. Well, not hospitals, because actually those should be privately owned too. Sincerely privately owned. That's all I'm saying. Sincerely privately owned. But my tax dollar will not be used to corrupt the business practice. That I won't, in terms of subsidizing a patron politician, attempt to change a law that makes competition of no avail. In fact, eliminating competition at all. Ladies and gentlemen, it's because we compete with one another. It's because of those particular things that make us better. But the most important thing is that you privately own your business. That you privately own that cab that you're driving right now and listening to this program on. That you privately own that store. That you privately own that school. That you privately own your house. When people stand at a podium and tell you about rugged individualism, they're criticizing you for taking a risk that actually creates a greater good.
That's in America's DNA. And that theory fits well on a bumper sticker. But here's the problem. It doesn't work. It has never worked.
Stop right there. If you voted for this man, and he's telling you, this is what he's telling you, urban America, and you know this because you have accepted it as truth. That government creates jobs. That government creates industries. That government ensures your safety and well-being. That government is the tool by which we all are lifted up. But government doesn't do that. What he's saying to you is, when you decided to take that money out of Bank of America to invest in your cab, to fix it up so that you could drive people through the night and make a profit so you could put your kids through school, take care of your wife, and pay off the mortgage, when you did that, you were a fool. You should have waited for the government to do it for you. Now, I don't know about any state-owned businesses that do well. Don't know of any. If someone comes up with an idea of a state-owned business that does well, you just let me know. But when someone stands at a podium and tells you that capitalism doesn't work, he hasn't come across the street from the White House to see all of the businesses that are around that particular White House, where someone took an individual effort, not a government grant, not a government handout, not a government subsidy, but they use their own money to put into that business and to create an opportunity to uplift people out of poverty. What do you think Nene was earning, sitting at home, $300 a month getting for welfare in order to take care of her baby and get some food stamps and some free health care while she watches a TV show where someone has to decide who's the daddy's mama and the baby or whatever, all that crap. Listen, taking her out of poverty didn't come by a government handout. What it came by was someone who was willing to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, put on their dungarees, their t-shirt, and a little shirt over the top of it, put a little apron on, and put some donuts in the little oven, and make them big enough so that they can be sold that particular day, fresh enough to be sold that particular day, and create enough profit to invest in this young person who's coming in out of nowhere with no skills whatsoever. Someone had to make that investment. It wasn't government. Government creates a $4 trillion deficit annually. That means they spend more than they take in. If that money was kept in your wallet, you could create the profit necessary to do what they promise they're going to do, but can't do. They don't have the wherewithal to create the businesses necessary to sustain the economy. I heard the director, the economic director for the District of Columbia, say in a meeting that she wished she could buy all of the businesses in the District of Columbia. And then the state would then be able to create enough jobs. The state wouldn't. The state can't. It doesn't have private ownership. Private ownership is the motif that allows production of goods. When you take away private ownership, you take away competition. That competition that makes a baker across the street want to make bigger donuts than the baker across the street from him. That McDonald's that opens in a neighborhood where most people wouldn't think a McDonald's would survive. The production of goods and services is based on supply and demand. When someone stands at a podium and tells you that capitalism has failed, they're telling you that they do not understand supply and demand. Market economies work on supply and demand. Command economies do not work on supply and demand. Command economies work this way. Someone passes a bill to fund everything, and that bill alone, or that funding alone, takes care of every particular debt, every particular issue. It will make certain that bread is on the bakery shelves. We know, without a shadow of a doubt, especially when you have the President of the United States come out and tell you that the Russian economy is doing poorly. Why does the Russian economy do poorly? Even as it's transitioning from a command economy to a market economy, it doesn't have the private ownership which motivates people to create profit. If I know for a fact that I can do my very best at 100% in that classroom and still get the grade that Derek Brown gets for throwing stuff around and screwing up all over the place, if I know that, I'm not going to compete anymore. I'm just going to allow it to happen. What that does is it creates scarcity. It creates debt. It creates hardship. And it creates burden. Market economies solve problems. Command economies create them. That's why Ronald Reagan said, be careful when someone from the government knocks on your door and tells you that they want to help you. They can't help you. They can only take from you, cost run, overrun, to take away even more, then produce something, and even that production is limited, to a scale that's going to cost you even more to maintain it. I told you I would tell you the story that the conversation that I held today with a young woman, and I will do that in the fourth quarter of our program. But I want people in urban America to understand that what you've been waiting for 40 years is never going to happen. Or at least 50 years. About the late 1960s, it was the urban takeover of the cities, and the whole concept was to raise taxes so that you can give out government contracts equally to people, And the government assured that it would give out contracts equally, that poor blacks and women and other minorities would receive contracts equal to wealthy whites. Well, the same institution that told you that they could do that 45 years ago is struggling to do it today. Why are they struggling? Because they're trying to use a command economy approach to market solutions. You can't force people to buy something they don't want. I.e., Obamacare, which is why the co-ops have failed all across. Republicans, you don't need to hold a hearing unless you're trying to keep it alive. The bottom line is a command economy does not work for people who want to be rich, who want to be profitable, and all of us do. So why do you beg the doors of the government to create something it can't, promise you something it won't, and do something it never will? You are the ox, you're the ox that grinds the grain, people. You're the one who makes the economy work. Capitalism is generally characterized by competition between producers. You're a producer. Start acting like it. Other facets such as participation of government in production and regulation vary across models of capitalism. Listen, I don't know how better to tell you this. The less government you have in business, the more profitable you become, the greater producer of wealth, the greater investor in people, the greater producer of national investment around the world. Let me give you an example. If, perchance, workforce development programs, and there are 27 of them throughout the District of Columbia, where we spend over $30 million in workforce development programs. If those jobs that are created were sustainable, do you think the government would just spend $30 million on them? Think about it. If you could create, wouldn't you spend more? Look at the benefit that you would have, the boondoggle you would have, if you created more jobs. From the government taking money from you and creating jobs. They don't create jobs. In fact, in D.C., we spend $46,000 per job created. So what does that tell you? Firstly, government sucks when it comes to management. Secondly, government sucks when it comes to dealing with your finances in its own. And then thirdly, government sucks in terms of creating jobs. They just can't do it. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital.
Buenas tardes, niños. This is Spanish with Señora Cabrera. Today we will learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish. In English, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, in Spanish we say, juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa, una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Muy bien. Practice your Pledge of Allegiance. And the more you practice, the faster you will memorize. I'll see you later.
And I'll see you now. Thank you, Senor Cabrera. The Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America, the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And don't let the socialists take that from you. So they're anxiously working on it. Matt Bevin is now the governor of Kentucky. Matthew Bevin is a businessman and Tea Party favorite. I wish he was senator. I really do. I wish they had voted him in and knocked out McConnell. But this might stage what's going to happen in the future after becoming governor. He may become senator. But I want to make it very plain to you, Matt Bevin is now, or at least when he's sworn in officially, the governor of Kentucky. Mitch McConnell this might be your last year, man. I'm just saying. Matt Bevin should have been senator. There's a lot of election stuff going on tonight, and all of the backbenchers, in the words of a great columnist, columnist as well as commentator. Wow, those things just fly off, right? Would say. But tonight we're going to be talking with my very good friend and just wonderful human being, Janice Hall. The J. Hall World Report is coming up in just a few. And we want to really broach some of the international issues that are going on around the world. And it is one of the great joys listening to her talk about these particular issues. And you know what I do. Ringy Dingy 1, Ringy Dingy 2. We're getting ready to call her now. And get rolling. Let's see. There we go. You all know that this weekend on the 6th and 7th in Washington, D.C., we will have town hall meetings. We released our press release earlier. Now, after this conversation with Janice Hall, we'll talk about that press release. And I'm encouraging you to participate any way that you can. Any way that you can. The more the merrier.
Hello.
Good evening, Janice Hall, the J. Hall World Report. I am so glad you're on the air with us tonight.
Me too.
Wow. Listen, I don't know about you, but I remember boots on the ground meant that there were soldiers on the ground. But the Obama administration is trying to tell us tonight that boots on the ground in Syria does not mean boots on the ground.
Right.
Exactly what does that mean?
He means whatever Obama wants it to mean.
All right, so we have 50 quote-unquote advisors. You know how Vietnam started. This is how Vietnam started. We sent advisors to Nam, and then we started sending backup to help them, and then we started sending soldiers to protect the nation, and then the next thing you know, the Vietnam War. Are we looking at the beginning of a Vietnam in Syria?
Well, I would say it was perhaps another president that was not Obama. I mean, I don't honestly think that Obama is really all that interested in solving the situation in Syria. I think what he's probably doing is he's sending it's a token effort to, hopefully have some effect on the situation. It probably really won't. But he wants to be seen as if he's doing something, especially, recently since Russia's gotten involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that Obama's particularly inclined to send anybody else.
You know, when he started in the presidency, we only had 2 wars going. And remember he said he would actually close those 2 wars off, and actually the Bush administration had already worked that out, that he would be the closer of those 2 wars. Well, since that time period, I think we've entered into at least 3 wars.
It seems that way. We definitely still really haven't closed out the ones we want to have closed out.
So we got 5 wars going on right about here. Is this a Nobel Peace Prize president?
Absolutely. I mean, don't you just see so much more peace happening in the world these days?
So much more peace. So much more peace. We're talking tonight with Janice Hall, the J Hall War Report. This is the part of the show that I look forward to every week, because Janice Hall is right on the numbers on all of these world issues. I want to talk with you tonight about the China situation, because there's some breaking news about China, and I want to laugh with you about something. Because we talked about this 1 year ago. Yeah, about 1 year ago to this particular broadcast. Apparently, and I mean just apparently, China is concerned that the Southeast Asian nations are being unfair to them. So, they are asking the Southeast Asian nations to drop any reference or concerns over the South China Sea. And in a statement to be issued after regional defense talks in Malaysia, a diplomat push that reflects growing tensions over China's man-made islands. China's push could cast into doubt a signing ceremony traditionally held with ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations set for Wednesday afternoon. So the Southeast Asian nations are saying, we're not going to sign that treaty with you anymore if you continue to weaponize the islands you're creating. Didn't we say that last year?
Yeah, I mean, China's... so China goes around, it says, I'm going to take over this water, I'm going to build islands, by the way, I'm probably going to put some military bases on them too. Why is everyone complaining about this?
Yes! Now, we talked about this last week, and we talked about how the U.S. sent a carrier to the area and some other military supplements to the area just to show that we are, we ain't going to take this too much longer. But does this mean that Southeast Asia has given up on America and has decided we're just going to handle this ourselves?
Well, the prudent thing to do if you're Southeast Asia would be to start considering how you're going to, what you're going to do if the U.S. is not going to be that much involved, right? That would be the prudent thing to do. Essentially, China is taking over the South China Sea. They, dug their claws in, they, built islands, and they're taking over. And basically nobody's done anything about it. Now, they clearly haven't taken over the whole entire area yet. Yes, an important word here in that sentence. So, it's not as if, they have control of everything. It's also not like they're actually invading another sovereign country. However, economically, they're basically trying to steal from everybody else in the region.
There you go.
And while the U.S. should be working to curtail, China's ambition in this area, we're not really doing so. Yes, we did send ships to pass by their fake islands, which China was not happy about. But I think at this stage it's kind of too little, too late.
Exactly.
And China's just, I don't think they were probably very fazed. Maybe they're a little fazed by what happened, but probably not very much.
Exactly. They could care less virtually about these Southeast Asian nations. In fact, they really would like to swallow up the Southeast Asian nations. Am I correct on that?
Yes, very likely.
So after the Obama administration, Russia is slowly taking over Eastern Europe and parts of the Middle East, along with China. China is taking over the Southeast Asian Sea, but we as Americans are being repudiated because we're trying to force our values, our conservative values, on other nations. Does that make sense?
I don't know what you're talking about, Ken. It makes perfect sense.
Janice Hall, J. Hall World Report. We're talking about some of the current event issues. We try to make this as understanding and as fun as possible, because if you didn't, you would just be crying all over the place that a community organizer has been put in charge of international affairs between the U.S. And the world. And on his watch, we're watching China envelop Southeast Asia, making Japan even consider going nuclear for the first time since Nagasaki, and if ever. And we're watching Russia extend its bare paw into the Middle East, and that's where I want to go right now, about Turkey. Okay, because Russia has been really provoking Turkey. You know what I've said. And I think they're doing it because they want to get it back at NATO and force Obama to make a decision of whether he's going to keep Turkey or let Turkey go. And a civil war will help making that decision in Turkey. So that would be why Putin is trying to provoke Turkey. But what is Turkey doing right now?
So, Turkey, for the first time, decided that it was going to conduct airstrikes on Kurds in Iraq. Now, obviously, they conducted airstrikes in the past on Kurds, but not in Iraq. So this is, it's pretty big. I think that, before when they did that against the Kurds, it had been in their own territory. It had been in Turkey. It had been in Syria, which was, essentially, a civil war-torn country in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going into Iraq. And, Iraq is essentially, one of the places that we're supposedly working to protect, right?
Yeah.
So, that's, I can't imagine that anybody at the Pentagon is happy about this.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so either.
I would not think so. Especially because the Kurds have been the ones we've been essentially supporting to try and fight ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
And they've pretty much been the only ones fighting ISIS.
Yeah.
So, and as for Russia, Russia's obviously been conducting its own airstrikes in Syria, against rebel forces, which are not necessarily Kurds. And I wouldn't necessarily say that their intent is to provoke Turkey, but I definitely don't think that they care about Turkey.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice at the very end of the Obama administration for Putin to draw us into a war that has no end, and relatively puts us in a scenario that we were in under the Bush administration, in terms of Iraq and Afghanistan. So, in regards to this, is Russia in this to support Assad, or is Russia really just doing this to provoke the U.S.?
So Russia basically implied today, not officially, but unofficially, that it wasn't as concerned if Assad stayed in power. Which is kind of makes a difference between how Iran feels about it, because they very much would like to keep Assad in power. I think that there's probably a couple different things going on with with Syria and Russia. I think that Russia probably, to some degree, feels slightly responsible, since, Assad was essentially one of, their allies.
Yeah.
And it's a bad situation, and I think they feel like, to some degree, they need to assist. But I think that it's also significant. They're kind of getting a 2-for-1 deal in that they basically get to say that, we're essentially trying to, help end this awful civil war that's been going on for so long, while the U.S. is not, and while Turkey is not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that as well. And yes, that is somewhat provoking to the U.S. and to Turkey and anybody else who, decided not to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I did say this before. I don't think that getting involved is necessarily the right thing or the beneficial thing to do. And I would imagine that eventually Russia will probably pay some price for assisting in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how the Middle East works these days, right? You make a friend today, and then tomorrow that friend tries to kill you.
What a friend we have in the Middle East. But I want to broach this idea with you. Is Russia using Assad as a bargaining chip with Iran for other things?
That's possible. I mean, I think in politics and in international relations, everything is bargaining chips.
Can you imagine your life as the bargaining chip on whether Iran transfers its oil directly to Russia before it goes to China? That would be simply amazing. That you could pass away and it works out good for your enemy or your friend, however way we wish to put it. The Russian plane crash is a concern for everybody. It's not the first time. It's not the second time, but it's happening multiple times. Can you tell us about the Russian plane crash?
All right, so a few days ago there was a Russian plane that was traveling from Egypt to Russia, St. Petersburg, and over the Sinai Peninsula, it basically exploded, crashed, and everyone was killed. And they had ruled out that it was a missile. However, the most recent news was that it's implying that there was some sort of explosion. And I don't necessarily know if that explosion happened from some sort of mechanical failure or if it was a bomb. We are talking about Russian aircraft here. So there's that. But it would be bad if it was a bomb. Other than when essentially the Russians brought down the plane, a while back, we haven't actually seen a plane bombing or a plane being brought down, by various means in a while. So that would be pretty significant. And if it was a bomb, it's not altogether unlikely that it has, that it doesn't have something to do with Russia's involvement now in Syria.
Ah! Payback is a real itch. So literally, this might be a throwing down the gauntlet by ISIS on Russia.
It's possible. We don't know right now, but I'm sure it's definitely something that is being looked into.
Wow, that would be pretty significant. That would be very significant. Which would give Russia the moral high ground to say that we did this to eradicate such evil, and now we have the moral high ground and permission to further assault and further go into parts of Syria that the U.S. would not like.
Right.
Wow.
Or potentially Iraq, if it comes down to dealing with ISIS.
Wow. Oh, wasn't it just 7 years ago that we had virtually solidified Iraq and kept them out of harm's way for Iran, Syria, as well as Russia?
It was, and then everything just kind of fell apart.
Thanks to the Obama administration. Want to ask you tonight, as we're listening to Janice Hall, the J. Hall World Report, bringing the world current events to the kitchen table for better understanding. We've talked about China, we've talked about Russia, but one of the other things that we haven't discussed, which is becoming a major problem, or at least not recently, although we were the first ones to really talk about the influx into Germany, into other parts of Greece and England. But now you're having nations beginning to talk about tossing militant, radical Islamists, Mohammedans, Muslims out of their country after welcoming them in with golden arm, big arm. I mean, what's happening here? Why is Angela Merkel now? There's talk about her being impeached for bringing in 800,000. What's going on? What happened? They used to be the candy of the week. What happened to the Mohammedans?
Okay. So, anytime you have a humanitarian crisis, or even just, aid in general, I think that, we do like to help people.
Yeah.
And if people are in need, it is good to be able to assist them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That said, it's just logistically not possible to help everyone. And I think, what Germans are, ultimately unhappy about is the level of effort. I'm sure, that they would very much like to help. I feel that, a lot of European countries would, like to assist if they can in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But, practically speaking, that is just not possible. And, and I think, so there's that.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree, especially in Europe, not so much in the U.S., because we have our culture is very centered upon immigration, but in Europe, cultures there are more homogenous, and throwing a huge, group of people into that mix, can somewhat upset the balance, and people can be, feel threatened and upset by that.
Yeah. And this concept of mass population dispersal, it works, say, in the 50 states. If you took 50,000 refugees, per se, if they were political refugees, I question that.
There's that too. There's that question as well.
Yeah. But if you took 50,000 of them and then divide them up amongst the states, you got 1,000 in all of the U.S., and 1,000 in each state. That's somewhat manageable. But asking for 800,000 radical army aid. No, they're radical. They're burning stuff up and running through the streets and complaining because they're not getting their handout as they should. They're radical. And then taking the black ISIS flag and walking through the downtown of Munich. They're radical. So, I mean, you're asking for ultimate culture shock, bringing in 800,000 people at one time. What was Angela Merkel thinking?
I think Germany feels or thinks that they have sort of been the country to take the lead on offering assistance to not only Europe, but the situation in Greece,
yes.
But to some degree around the world, in the Middle East. And so I think that they wanted to be viewed that way. They wanted to be viewed the country that was, doing the most to help the refugees. And matters of practicality, matters of, how their own population would feel about it, weren't really, taken into account.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree, you can only, I think, as a conservative, that you can only ask people to give up so much.
Yeah.
And the Germans have given up a lot recently. They've, spent a lot of their own money, essentially, to support Greece.
Yep.
And then they're being asked to spend, more money to support, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Syria.
Ingrates. Hundreds of thousands of ingrates. Yeah, you kind of get enough of something after a while. 800,000 ingrates. Yeah, we've had enough. I feel sorry for Angela Merkel. I don't think she's going to have a good election year coming up soon.
Probably not.
Janice Hall, the J Hall World Report. We thank you so much for coming on and bringing world affairs down to the kitchen table for us.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Always great to have you. This is my favorite night of the week. It really is Tuesday night at 10 p.m. We get to talk with Janice Hall. And I like to being able to talk about these issues in ways and manners that people can understand them without being boring or stiff academics. We could do that, but that would be good. We'll be back right after Funky Chunk.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of a Fuse restaurant, and today I'm walking through some of the meals that we prepared here. So we're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage, and a cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and rich. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. Now, we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fishing grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burgers. When we keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck hand patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers. Really to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce, let it cook on it until we make the little half. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Derek Williams, you should deliver an infused burger to me. You really should. I don't understand why Derek Williams won't deliver an infused burger to me while I'm on the air. Inspire, indulge, infuse. Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Infused Restaurant, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Get the brunch daily brunch. Your bacon pancake. Honey, have you ever had a bacon pancake, baby? I would love a bacon pancake. See, that's a real man's restaurant. You know what I'm saying? 301-449-9000. I would call them or go to infuseinfuse.com, infuseinfuse.com, infuseinfuse.com. I would go there and order a bacon. I mean, the underground professor should order a bacon waffle. I want a bacon waffle right now. I don't understand why. Derek, you should need to order, man. You really need to order me. I mean, you need to deliver after I order. Something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many in America that don't understand because they have been led astray. But it is not the role of government to lift people out of poverty. I know I'm going to be ostracized for saying that. I will be denounced in my community, or I hate that term, community, in our neighborhoods for making that acknowledgement. But the truth of the matter is very simple. Government can't do something that you can already do for yourself. How does this sound to you? I am going to take the wealth that you made, and what I'm going to do with it is create a business model like yours to create jobs for people who need them. How does that sound to you? If you're already a job creator, why do you need the government in there trying to compete with your wealth to create jobs? It doesn't make sense. I want to play for you. These are the top 3 common myths of capitalism. I want to thank the good people at Learn Liberty for allowing me to use this, as you'll find them on the internet, on YouTube. But here we go. The top 3 common myths from Learn Liberty of capitalism.
Look at the history of the world. A huge fraction of the improvements in standard of living have come because private businesses have created new products, have given people jobs, have generated profits that raise people out of poverty and allow them to live fruitful and productive lives with reasonable standards of living. We can have much more of that, and it will have beneficial effects around the world if we step back from the excessive regulation and have a much more capitalistic system.
Jeff Murren.
My name is
Dr. Jeff Murren.
Director of Undergraduate Studies in the Department of Economics at Harvard University. I want to talk about 3 myths about capitalism. The first is that being pro-capitalism is the same as being pro-business. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The point of capitalism is to make sure that businesses have to compete vigorously against each other, and that benefits consumers. It's not good for the businesses per se, because they have to work really hard. So many businesses understand this, and they hate capitalism. They're constantly trying to get government to erect various rules, restrictions, regulations that help them, but they're not in the interest of the consumers. So pro-capitalism is good for consumers. That's who we're ultimately trying to help. The second myth is that capitalism generates an unfair distribution of income. What true capitalism does is rewards people who are productive, people who work a lot of hours, people who have a lot of talent, people who come up with good ideas. They get big rewards under capitalism, and people who don't do those sorts of things get less. The one negative one might be concerned about is that some people have very little skill. They are not able to earn very much left on their own, and so very reasonable people support some anti-poverty spending. But that's completely different than interfering with capitalism, regulating prices, limiting quantities, imposing all sorts of things on businesses. Those make the economy less productive, give us a smaller pie, and make it even harder for us to operate programs which help those who are less fortunate and because they were unlucky. The third myth is that capitalism was responsible for the recent financial crisis and the recession. That, again, is almost exactly the opposite of what is true. First of all, nobody who's being intellectually honest thinks that we had unbridled, serious capitalism before the crisis hit, before the subprime buildup occurred, before we had all of the housing problem. We had enormous government interventions that subsidized risk, enormous government interventions that encouraged an overinvestment in housing. If one's going to try to draw any conclusions, it seems to suggest much more clearly that interfering with capitalism generates financial crises, generates recessions, because what we experienced was directly related to the incentives for excessive risk-taking, the incentives for overinvestment in housing that were created by government. The private sector responded to those incentives, so of course the private sector can't be completely absolved of being involved, but in the sense of causing, it was the bad policies that caused it, not what the private sector or capitalism did on its own. Most importantly, whenever government bail out people who took excessive risk, they encourage people to do more of that in the future. And we unfortunately went a huge way in that direction via the TARP and via all the Federal Reserve policies, which helped Wall Street and the risk takers not have to pay the true price for all the excessive risk-taking they engaged in.
There you go, learnliberty.org. Learnliberty.org, a good place to go to learn about capitalism. If you were not taught about capitalism in your quote-unquote urban public school setting, you certainly will not, because you have organized teachers who will literally tell you that the poor are getting poor. And it's thanks to capitalism that the poor are getting poor. I got news for you. That's not the reason.
One often heard contemporary economic myth is that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Like any myth, there is a nugget of truth to this. For example, if we look at the data, the top 20% of income earners today do have a larger share of national income than they did in the past, and the bottom 20% of income earners do have a smaller share of national income than they had in the past. There's two problems with that data. First of all, that data doesn't tell us anything about the absolute condition of the poor. Just because one has a smaller share of income doesn't mean that one is absolutely poor. So, for example, it could be the case that even though poor Americans have a smaller share of national income, their absolute income is higher. If I asked you, would you rather have a sixth of a pizza or a ninth of a pizza, the answer might depend on how big the pizza is. And having 1/9 of a pizza might be better if the pizza was much larger than the one of which you have 1/6. The real income of poor Americans today is higher than it used to be, even though their share of total income is somewhat lower. But all of this misses the more fundamental point. The bigger problem is that data is snapshot data that compares wealthy people in 1 year with wealthy people in years before, poor people in 1 year, poor people years before. What it doesn't take into account is the movement in individual households through time.
There we go. Can we stop right there? Because this is where many conservatives get bungled up with the statistics. and you try to explain your reasoning for capitalism based on the constructs of the socialists. You try to explain to people that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, but it's not a apples oranges. Forgive me, apples comparison. It's an apples oranges comparison. But literally, you will have senators and congressmen, House of Representatives, who will stand there and try to debate someone based on an apples oranges construct rather than on the construct of individual ruggedness. It is your individual ability to take risks, to see a vision that people can't see, to use your gift that other people don't have, to give an innovation to a system that doesn't have it, monetize it, and make profit from it. It is your ability, not the group's ability. Your ability fashions an opportunity for people within a group setting to succeed, not the entire group, because not the entire group will follow. Not the entire group will take advantage. Opportunity is individualistic. It is not group. I can't make you invest in a stock that everybody else is investing in. Groupthink does not work that way in terms of composing wealth. It is you taking a risk. It is you getting up in the morning, getting on the bus, going to that job that only pays you $8.50 an hour, learning the skill set from the person who's teaching you that, so that you might, as you're studying, improve your skill set, make you more appealing to someone who sees the value in your skills and abilities and says that I'd like to offer to you an opportunity to garner greater skills with a higher wage. That's what capitalism does. It lifts people out of poverty. It does not set a barrier against individuals being lifted out of poverty. Minimum wage does set that barrier. I want to go back to the professor as we talk about the poor getting poorer. Learn liberty.
Data that compares wealthy people in 1 year with wealthy people in years before, poor people in 1 year, poor people years before. What it doesn't take into account is the movement in individual households through time. If we could track individual households, we might be able to know what happens to poor people in, say, 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And in fact, we do have that data. One set of data shows that between 1979 and 1988, 86% of households that were poor in 1979 were no longer poor in 1988. A second set of data from the University of Michigan shows that of households that were poor in 1975, over 95% of them were no longer poor by 1991. One of the most important things to understand when we talk about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer is this idea of income mobility. The reality is for most Americans that they start off poor and then they slowly become richer over time. And in fact, if we look at that data comparing 1975 and 1991, what we find is that the average income gain for rich households over that period was just about $4,000, but the average gain for poor households over that period, $28,000. So what really happened between 1975 and 1991 is that the rich got richer, but the poor got richer a lot faster than the rich did. So whenever we talk about rich and poor, we have to take account of this issue of income mobility. So how can it be that most Americans are getting richer while we know that there's still plenty of poor people out there? Well, the fact is that one of the things that happens over time is who comprises the income distribution changes. Immigrants, young people entering the labor force, come into that income distribution at low levels of income. They become the new poor, while the old poor slowly move their way up. So even though at first glance at the data may make it seem like the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, the reality of the United States in the early 21st century is that everybody's getting richer, rich and poor alike. And the idea that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer is largely a statistical artifact and mostly a myth.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are, and I really appreciate LearnLiberty.org, which is a project of the Institute for Humane Studies. I like the honesty, because many people use these arguments to refute the conservative, the constitutionalist, the Christian conservative. They refute them by saying the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That's not happening. Individuals move. It is, and this is why individual ruggedness, which is blatantly refuted by Obama to our travesty as a nation, is essentially missed in us speaking back to those in the socialist movement. Dr. Michael Hughes did not always make such and such amount of money as a great professor. He had to start off somewhere else. So he garnered skills and he moved up. As he moved up, he got greater pay and tenure. As he was able to put his skills to the test, he took a risk in a certain industry that has its limitations in terms of what you're going to be able to make, because it's not built on a private concept of ownership. It's built on a state system of reimbursement, and as such, the reimbursement for his services are valued out by someone else in the state system, incrementally subject to tax revenue. While in the private marketplace, as sales increase because of supply and demand, the demand for a certain product and the supply being offered, you gain greater productivity, greater wealth, and greater income, which allows individuals to move upwards and out of their poverty. If you're in America and you still live in the same Section 8 housing that your great-great-grandmother lived in, and that can happen in our culture, because when a 16-year-old has a baby, and then 16 years later, that baby has a baby, and then 16 years later, that baby has a baby, you can be a great-great-great-grandmother in less than maybe 48, 50 years or whatever. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're still in the same Section 8 housing, it's not because private industry did not exist and offer the opportunity. It's because state government decided to keep you bound and buried and make it possible for you not to move out of your poverty. It is your poverty that secures those in power to stay in power. You become the government's slave in order to maintain their masterhood. So literally, the key to getting out of poverty is getting government out of your life. The less government you have in your life, the more opportunity you will have to go into a system in which you take the individual risk to either garner the skills necessary to move up in the echelon and test your skills at every level, garner those skills, and then go out and start your own. And let me tell you, urban Americans, stop always trying to create a nonprofit. Everywhere I go, urban Americans come to me and they talk about, I want to start a nonprofit because I want to help people. The best way you can help people is not by giving them a handout. The best way you can help people is give them a job. Speaking with a young lady tonight who's a wonderful cosmetologist, and does something called weaving. Now, those in the know understand that weaving is a labor-intensive effort, and you normally don't have too many people that do it well. It is an amazing thing to see a woman of great value and skill set in weaving. Because what someone may take 8 hours to do, someone who's really skilled, and if anyone has traveled, my wife has traveled to the Bahamas, she will tell you she's watched individuals do the specialized weaving, long hair, short hair, whatever it was, and they can do it so quickly it so beautifully that you wouldn't even imagine that you were even sitting there. So this young woman is able to do a full head of hair, long version of it, and I'm just giving it to you the way I've known it and as it was explained to me. She's able to do that in 2 hours. Now, she as a cosmetologist works in someone else's shop. She buys a chair. Her chair fee is $300 a week. Most of the week, she spends her time doing hair washes, the normal hairstyling or whatever. And she makes $55 a head, and she sees about 22 people or 25 people a week. She only sees 3 or 4 people for the weaving, but she's great at weaving. That means the other 20 people in which she makes $50 on each. When you look at it, she makes $1,000 a week off of them, and off the other 4, she makes another $300. So that's about $2,200 a week, and that works out to somewhere in the area about $50,000, $60,000 a year. Somewhere in the area, more like $100,000. But when you take away all the expenses she incurs, she walks away from the table with about $50,000, $60,000 a year. But I wanted her to understand something. They are paid very well, Dave. Very well. $300 for doing a weave and doing it well. She did not understand that she was in business to start her own business. And for those of you who are following along at home, I want you to understand something as we come towards the end of our show. You are not in business to stay in someone else's chair for the rest of your life. You are not a government worker. There is no safety in you staying in your pat place. You were garnered to take a risk. You were garnered not only to take that risk, but to invest in others. So I said to her, as we were standing and talking, and looked her deep in the eye when we looked at the amount of profitability she had for doing 3 to 4 heads a week in weaving versus 20 some odd heads. We talk about time and energy, resources, production costs, taxes, labor, all those other things. You talk about all those costings, and then you come away with something. Literally, and I'm thinking to myself, she wasn't doing 3 to 4 heads at $300 a week because that would be the inertia for her to move forward on her own. Literally, I looked her in the eye and asked her, are you running a charity or are you running a business? Are you running a charity or are you running a business? Because the simple answer to all of that is, if you are making $300 a head and you are the great one at what you do, and you can get a 2/3 profit on the amount of effort and product and other regulatory things out of the way, and I can't stand the fact that they're regulated to do a weave the same way a cosmetologist is, because there's no chemicals involved. You just weave a hair. But if you're making $300 per sitting, wouldn't it make more sense for you, since you want to start your nonprofit and you make $200 profit per head, to do 20 heads a week in your own facility, and then create an avenue where 4 or 5 others come under you to do the other work, which you take a percentage out of, and then out of all that work, you take a percentage out of what you've made and give it to a foundation that you create for a nonprofit, where you go into senior homes or you go into low-income homes to help women come out of poverty and into the workplace and look good. You can do that on the download for free. But guess what? You are creating jobs, you are creating profit, and you're no longer looking at yourself as someone who's looking and holding on to a chair every single week, but literally you're creating 4 or 5 chairs in different cities: Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, DC. Houston, you are creating, and instead of being caught up on making just $50,000 a year, 3 years from now, you could be making $1 million in 5 or 6 different cities, having created 4 or 5 different jobs in each of those cities, and making it profitable for that person to come behind you. And then someday, some little girl sitting in a 3rd grade classroom looking at a picture of you on the front cover of a magazine will think to themselves, someday I want to be like her. She was rocked. And I'm telling you right now, she's going home tonight to do some homework. If you're listening right now and you haven't done this homework, that you've accepted that socialism is the way, the truth, and the life, and it is the only way that urban folk will get out of poverty, you need to rethink. Capitalism is the boat and it's the water that lifts people out of poverty. I want to thank you also tonight for being here. Tomorrow night we'll have, I don't know if we'll have a show tomorrow night. I'll see what we can do. I'll be up in Baltimore. We'll see what we can do. But I assure you this one thing. One man once told me to live bravely and do not die as a coward. I promise you I will be doing that. But I also promise you this. God has blessed America. Now it's time for us to bless God. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night and God bless from the wonderful, wonderful city of Washington, D.C.